Right, the fallout from yesterday's game. Chelsea won, Arsenal won. A game that, listen, by all accounts, Chelsea were really, really lucky to get that point in because according to Mikel Arteta, they absolutely dominated the match. I don't know whether the stats would suggest that that was the case or not, but we want to speak about all of the talking points in a lot more detail than I did yesterday when I recapped and gave my initial, and let's be quite frank, emotional points from the game. And there is only one man that I can have the pleasure of doing so with, and that is the big dog, the channel fan favourite, the man, the myth, the legend, Joshua Aveste. Now, he didn't drop a post-match review because he was at the match.
I was at the game. I came home. I had my dinner. I chatted to you for a bit. Went on the kickoff. We've got another video on there going up today. We're busy.
We're grafters.
We're grafters.
We're grafters.
But that wasn't because I didn't have anything to say. Because I've got a lot to say.
I tell you,
Much like Mikel Arteta, by the way.
Let's go straight in with the Spaniard, Mikel Arteta, who was once eligible to play for the England national team.
Did
you know that?
He never played for England?
Not really.
Who was wasn't there a Chelsea goalkeeper once upon a time that could have got an England call up?
Big bad Carlo Cudicini.
Would you have taken him in England? Who was he up against in that era? Was it Robinson?
Do you know what?
David James?
I would have 1,000,000% taken him in that era because that was right after David Seaman.
Yeah. Big fan of Seaman.
I'm a big fan of David Seaman. Big fan. big fan of him. But yeah,
Sticky gloves, Seaman.
Seaman had a safe pair of hands, right? But England entered a period after that where we had David James, and it was like, you're more interested
in. But are you a good goalie?
More interested in dyeing your hair than you are keeping the ball out the back of the net.
I have to say, he's a very good painter, David James.
Didn't even know he did.
He's an oil painter. Very good.
Didn't even know he did.
Very good.
A what painter?
An oil painter.
I thought you said an oral painter.
Well, there are people that paint with their mouths.
I've just got videos that I can watch for that sort of stuff.
Well, any links will be below.
But yeah, either way, Mikel Arteta, in a nutshell, what he basically said is, we dominated the game.
Yeah.
Now, I have to call it out because I called Erik ten Hag out plenty of times for gaslighting.
Yeah.
You didn't get dominated in the game, so it's not like the biggest lie that anyone's ever told, but a lie is a lie no matter what. Now, I've got a saying.
Go on.
Never let the truth get in the way of a good story.
I thought it was lie.
Was Mikel Arteta not letting the truth get in the way of a good narrative that he wanted to impose coming away from that match? Because for me, that didn't really feel like a match that Arsenal dominated.
I think that Mikel Arteta may have a career in writing in the future because his narrative sort of craft is exceptional. I thought it was beautiful, in fact. Do you know what? You can't rewrite history because, unfortunately, with football, all of the data is on the table, right? Mm-hmm. We looked at the stats. The XG was almost exactly identical for each team.
Yep.
Right? The shots on target, we actually had more shots.
No, sorry, Josh, you're wrong.
Go on.
Wasn't almost exactly identical.
Go on.
XG for Arsenal was 0.99.
You see,
XG for Chelsea was 1.28. I'm seeing on my stats
this is interesting because Opta have a different story. So this is, I don't know. I saw that, by the way, I saw the stats that you are reading out right now last night.
I'm reading it from London Will Always Be Blue.
Yeah, well, they wouldn't lie.
No reason to. No agenda. No agenda.
No agenda
with
at
a
all.
name like London Will Always Be Blue, you're never going to have a Chelsea bias.
And then in terms of shots, right, we had 17 shots. We had 6 on target. They only had 13 with 4 on target. They created more big chances, but we had more shots on target. So, and look, outside of the stats alone, because the stats are, I think are in our favour. Let's be honest, mate. We could have scored from the Gusto header.
Yep.
The Cole Palmer shot was an unbelievable save.
Yeah, I thought it was.
David Raya.
I thought it was, even though it was central to the goal. I think the swerve on the ball.
Yeah.
If it had gone in, it would have almost been Lampard-esque against Everton away. Blue shorts, white fixture. Is that the goal I'm thinking of?
Arguably, that should be our away kit from now on, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
I think that is. I think you're correct in that standard, the Lampard standard.
You know what I mean?
Like
Like where it's sort of at the goalkeeper, but it swerves a bit and it still takes him off. I thought it's a fantastic save by David
Raya.
Raya.
Swaz.
Yeah. But also, can I remind you, Levi Cole, Fofana, wasn't it? Fofana that got the toe, lifted it over David Raya, but it just about went over the net. It's not so far over the net that it was in the stands, landed on the roof of the net.
And arguably, he was being manhandled at that point as well.
Yeah.
You know? So it could have been a penalty shot there. I mean, let's not even go on the refereeing.
The goal that we did score, obviously.
Yeah.
So when we're going on about clear-cut chances and whatnot, you know.
To say dominated, I could say, you know, I do think the scoreline is probably a fair result of the game. You know, really? Do you agree? I think so.
Do you know sometimes in life you can not agree, but you don't have to disagree. And I don't disagree with you.
I think, look, we've just listed several chances. I think the Fofana one and the Gusto one were gilt edge, really. The Gusto one, all you need to do is get your head over it. I mean, arguably, he was the worst man on the entire pitch to have that header. I'd almost prefer anyone else to have that header than Malo Gusto.
Yeah.
Look, I'm thinking of maybe you could have an argument of Lavia, maybe you could have an argument of Cucurella, but Cucurella's quite good.
Nah, I think Cucurella would have put that in.
And actually, Noni's been pretty shit with his head recently. But beyond that, it fell to the wrong person. And Gusto does keep popping up in these positions where you want him to take a shot, you want him to score a goal, and he just fluffs his lines a bit. Do you know what? I tell you what. I don't know if Reece James ends up in that position, but I reckon if Reece James does get his head on it, he scores that.
You need to rechange your word in there because you said you reckon if Reece James gets his head on it.
Yeah.
Oh, if Reece James gets his head on it.
Oh, it goes in. Yeah, but I just don't know whether Reece would have been there.
That's a key point.
Yeah.
Speaking about Reece being there, where does yesterday's performance leave Reece James? More importantly, where does yesterday's team selection leave Reece James? Are we still seeing the same levels of athleticism from Reece James? And is this a point of, right, this is the version of Reece James we've got right now? Or are we seeing a Reece James at maybe 50% who is fit enough to play, but realistically, maybe because he's missed so long, and I'm not on about games, I'm on about seasons realistically in terms of consistently playing. Realistically, is this a level that we'll see him at this season? And then, because of the fact that he is still a young player, we'll be able to see him push on. And the question I want to ask you here, because you spoke about Malo Gusto there, is it a choice between Reece and Gusto? Or is it a choice between Reece and Cucurella? Because when we've seen Reece, he has come on and played in that left-back slot a lot of the time, apart from being moved over in-game.
I think it should be a choice between Gusto and Reece. I think the performances, and the reason why I will say that is the performances of Cucurella. Like, you look at the way that he dealt with Saka. Do you want to just list the stats off about how he performed against probably one of the best wingers in the Premier League?
Yeah, well, it was a talking point going into the game because obviously there was a lot of Arsenal fans that were singing loud and proud about the fact that Saka's had Cucurella on toast a couple of times and whatnot. I think maybe they could be referring to the Euro final or something like that. But ultimately, Cucurella's team came out on top in that game. And look, you know, I'd have rather Saka's team in that game came out on top, but it is what it is. But it was definitely my concern going into the match. Now, clearly I was wrong because he assisted for the goal, but many of the Arsenal fans and the narrative going round was like, we've got Odegaard back. And I was going, I ain't really that fussed about Odegaard. My thing is we need to keep Bukayo Saka quiet, and I don't want Cucurella to invert. I want Cucurella to be on Saka, and I want him to have that support there from Pedro Neto, who can be on Odegaard and stop the supply coming to him a little bit. And that's exactly what Enzo Maresca did. And the stats showed that as well as Enzo Maresca setting us up systematically to be able to do that, Marc Cucurella put in the sort of performance that now, do you know what? Because I just know his class and quality and ability, I actually expect from him. Yeah. And that was 90 minutes played, 57 touches, 36 out of 39 accurate passes. That's 92%. And that's very high when you, on the eye test, look at the sort of game it was. It was the game where there was ever a time when the ball was being lost, it was in that middle third. And that is where Cucurella is ultimately passing into, is that middle third, right? 4 out of 5 ground duels won, 1 block shots, 2 clearances, 3 tackles, 3 interceptions. How many times was he dribbled past?
By Bukayo Saka, 0.
How many times was he dribbled past by anyone?
0.
0. So
what a set of stats.
I think you'd call that a pretty good game, wouldn't you?
Yeah. But the fact now that there is even a debate about whether Cucurella is in the A-team or should be starting any game, it's just, I just don't understand it. I don't understand how any Chelsea fan would not have Cucurella probably third man on the team sheet. Like, you say Cole Palmer, first man. You say Caicedo, second man. I'd definitely say Cucurella for me has got to be up there in terms of the next choice.
Yep.
It's that simple, isn't it? And then just to go back to Reece as well, because we do have to talk about Reece. I think that Maresca is so worried about the sort of the sprint runs, the sort of quick acceleration runs that you have to do in the wing-back position, and the capability that Reece has to be able to do that he's wrapping Reece in cotton wool. I do have, maybe not nightmares, because Reece can deal with players like this, right? But having a player like a Martinelli, if he was on that side, running at you with the pace that we know that Martinelli has, it concerns me purely, not because I don't think that Reece could stop him, because Reece could absolutely stop him, but it's more about what it does to his legs and then how he reacts to that. So I actually completely understand the decision from Maresca. Now, when we're talking about our preferred starting 11 going forward, I don't think there are many Chelsea fans out there that wouldn't say that Reece James would be in their preferred starting 11, and that means that he starts on the right. Bearing in mind everything we said about Cucurella. But there are certainly games in which if you have a really pacey, aggressive, sort of twitch fibre muscle winger, you want Gusto to be playing those games.
Well, you've completely hit the nail on the head there, because in life, I very much do think that there are different horses for different courses. There are different strokes for different folks, okay? And ultimately, I think that we had a chat on the kickoff yesterday. Not too sure whether the video is out right now, but definitely keep your eyes peeled out for the chat we had on the kickoff when we spoke about the game and we spoke about the congestion of fixtures now. And, I had to get it in there. Remember the moment when I said, it's almost, you almost now need sort of like 2 starting 11s that a club can pick from. Someone should come up with that idea to be able to do that. And it was me getting a bit of a cheeky dig in there. And I do think that harmony in the camp is something that as Chelsea fans we've lacked at times, and it predates to, Lukaku and all different bits and pieces like this. But ultimately, when big money signings come in, they want to be playing football. We're seeing and hearing rumours about Nkunku at the moment and things like that. And from a human aspect, I completely understand it. But I also think that this isn't the football of 20 years ago when we were growing up. These lads are playing more, they're travelling more, they're the game, they're training more. The game is played at a higher intensity, maybe you could say now, and they're asked to do more versatility-wise in terms of position and things like that. And that's why rotation needs to be accepted, and it can't upset harmony in the changing room, in my opinion. So say, for example, Reece James, what do I always say? He's my favourite Chelsea player. Absolutely love Reece James. Absolutely love him. But, and I'm not suggesting that he is, by the way, but Reece James can't feel, not to say how he can feel. I don't feel like he should outwardly feel, enraged at the fact that he didn't start yesterday's game, because I do think that Enzo Maresca has shown us more than enough so far to show that he is a man that will make ruthless but calculated decisions in order to get us the best result from a game, right? And the best result from yesterday's game would have been to have come away with 3 points.
Clean sheet as well.
And a clean sheet. But at the same time, you can't deny the fact that even in the facts that we drew 2-2, right, last season, okay, we drew 2-2. It was a higher scoring match.
Great goal in that game.
But remember how that went. We gave goals up in that game? Did we go 2-0 up in that game? Or was it 2-1?
2-1, I think.
2-1, then we led twice in that game. Whereas yesterday's game, we came back and pulled ourselves back into the game. Yesterday's performance was a more impressive performance than we put in against Arsenal last season. Yeah?
Definitely.
That's my true belief there. Yeah. Open play goals, like, as well. Like, my true belief is that yesterday's performance was better. My true belief is that the performances that we put in against these big six sides are better. So I think we have to put our trust in Enzo Maresca and not question the decision too much going forward. However, that again doesn't mean that I wouldn't have Reece James in the starting lineup. No. As I say, horses for courses. Now, speaking of those horses, one that is purring at the opportunity to prove the naysayers wrong, and he really, really, really wants his moment in the sun and
on the racecourse.
He wants to be on the racecourse. He wants to be on the racecourse. Yeah. Trying to think of some others.
He's overcome a lot of hurdles.
Mate.
Yeah.
He really has.
Any others?
Really has. Hay.
He's always quick out of the blocks.
Quick out the traps.
Yeah.
That's more the dogs.
Yeah. Well, they're trapped in
and
as
this guy isn't always quick out the traps. But Enzo Fernandez, he came on yesterday.
Yeah. You slagged him off constantly. You've got a video on Instagram, if you haven't seen it, 1.7 million views, not that big anyway, just saying how crap he is.
I just had TikTok demonetized that video.
Bullying.
It's just fucking...
It's bullying.
Load of... I can't say it on here, but...
You can say we're on YouTube right now. You can just say YouTube is better.
YouTube's 1,000,000% better than TikTok. 100,000,000% YouTube is.
And while we're here, by the way, can I just say something?
Yeah.
For all the hardcore out there, do us a favour. Like the video.
Yeah.
Leave us a comment saying that you are part of the hardcore. Because we need some love. We need some love on the videos right now.
I say who is part of the hardcore. Big shout out to Luke
Fowler.
Luke Fowler.
Brother of.
Cousin of. Yeah. Robbie Fowler. Shout out Luke Fowler if you're watching.
Oh, know, Luke. You know.
Yeah, you know. Enzo Fernandez came on, made a real impact in that game. And not only did I see him win the ball a couple of times, depossess Arsenal, win possession over Arsenal a couple of times, but also obviously put that ball into the pocket of space that Pedro Neto was running into. Yeah. That's exactly what we want to see from Enzo Fernandez, isn't it?
We've never doubted him, Joey.
Never for a second.
We've never doubted him. It's really interesting, actually, because I think everyone unanimously said that Lavia was the guy. And we've started him now a few times, and I think he's performed incredibly well, and I think he should be very proud of himself. And he hasn't got injured again, which is a huge, huge thing. But you have to say, Enzo does bring something slightly different to this. And I remember you scrunched your face up a little bit when I said this on the kickoff. But you always a little bit like, no, Lavia can do the through balls. In fact, the numbers and the data provides that. And that's fair enough. I think that Enzo might do slightly different types of through balls. Whenever I see Lavia, it's always a through the lines, straight through ball, the sort of the triangle pass if you're on the PS5. Do you know what I mean? Whereas with Enzo, it's more looping, switch play, finding pockets of space. And I think when he came on, I thought he was really good. And to have that as the first sub to come on and say, I almost actually really like the way that Enzo starts with Lavia, comes in at half time, we don't concede a goal, we're solid, we've got a base to go on. Then you can bring a more expressive player like Enzo on and then try and unlock the game. Which he did.
This was the debate that and the point that I raised, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to label Enzo Fernandez an impact sub, and I understand that people will go, oh well, we paid 100 million, whatever. What I'm saying is Enzo came on, we were 1-0 down, and he ultimately helped us change the game, right?
Yeah.
Now, he didn't put it on a plate for Pedro Neto to score because there was still a lot to be done.
He still had a fair amount.
But he still had a fair amount to do. But he put a great key pass through and contributed to us getting a point out of that game, right? So brilliant. All applause to him. Now, what I'm saying is I can't wholeheartedly say that, right, that means Enzo should be starting over Romeo Lavia. That means that Romeo Lavia should be starting over Enzo. I can't wholeheartedly say any of it because the only evidence we've got from yesterday's game and from the way it went is that Romeo Lavia has the ability, when he's included, to be able to help us win, I would say win a midfield battle and combat one of the best midfields in the league, whether they were carrying injuries, coming back from injuries or not, keep us in a game. And then Enzo, coming on, had the ability to give us the creativity to get back into that game. That's the only conclusion that I can draw from that. I can't then say, off of yesterday, one should be starting ahead of the other. And I think it would be, again, like I'm coming back and just repeating myself here, but it's horses for courses. There are certain games where I feel like an Enzo Fernandez might be a better player to have in there. You know, we've got some games coming up against some of the teams in the bottom half of the table, and potentially I'm looking at those games and I'm thinking, do you know what? I might have Enzo starting in those games.
This is exactly what we need Enzo to be doing. We need him to be performing like a man of the match performance in the Conference League if he's going to be playing in then. And then when he comes on in the Premier League, he needs to make an impact. If he does, then we've got, you know, a real competition on our hands. That's ultimately what we want as a squad right now. When we did that video about Enzo and we talked about the stats, it wasn't because we dislike Enzo as a player. And in fact, there is a general point here when we're slagging off a particular player, like for example, we've not been very complimentary about Robert Sanchez. You know, we've not been very complimentary about some other players, like, you know, maybe like a Badiashile or a Disasi right through the season. We're not dismissive of these players and to say that they're never going to be Chelsea players. But what we're saying is they need to elevate their levels to be right up there. And I think Enzo is showing that in some of the most recent performances. He's showing that he can get to that level. And that's all you want. If he's knocking on the door, then there are games coming up that you should be starting him in. I'm sorry, but you should. Because we need to unlock a low block against a team like Leicester or a team like Ipswich that, you know, that are going to be coming on to us. They're not going to be expansive in the same way that Arsenal were. And in fact, I say we probably struggle more, even now, against that lower block. We know that when teams come and play us, like a Wolves, we'll fucking walk all over them. But when teams sit back and we really still struggle to break them down.
You know what shows you the improvement of Chelsea not just this season, but in terms of like how big teams and big clubs approach us and how they feel about us is how they defend against us. Like, have you not noticed in the big games, like before it was almost like, nah, like we just go for the jugular against Chelsea because whatever, you know? And okay, you can look at the horrific performance at the Emirates last season when Arsenal did that and they did come up 5-0 winners, and, you know, I had to hang my head in shame that night. But at the same time as that, now look about the fact that when we're on the ball, Arsenal had 11 men behind the ball. So how many times could you count 11 men behind the ball yesterday? Even in the game against Liverpool, how many times could you count 11 men behind the ball? I'm not on about 1 or 2 periods of matches. I'm on about for spells of 5-6 minutes of football, mate. Like, do you know what I mean? So
when we held onto the ball,
that shows me that teams respect us now. And very much so they should do. Now, another player that I want to talk about, this is a player that is coming in for a little bit of stick. But before we get into all that, I want to let you know that Manscaped are back with their latest release, the Chairman Pro package. And this is an all-in-one set that includes everything you need to recreate the luxury of a professional shave while you're at home. So hit the link in the description and join over 11 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and use the code JOEYKNIGHT to get 20% off and free shipping. Now, I know that I've had times in the past when I've been shaving, I've cut my face, I've stuck a little bit of toilet roll on there, and it's never a good thing, especially when it's used toilet roll like the bit I had to use. But worrying about stuff like that is a thing of the past for me now, because the Chairman Pro package has everything that I could possibly need. The Chairman Pro has 2 interchangeable skin-safe blade heads. You've got the skin-safe 4-blade foil for that close, smooth shave, and you've also got the skin-safe stubble trimmer for when you want to keep a bit of that rugged look about you. Both heads are designed with skin-safe technology to help reduce razor burn and irritation. The standout feature that sets sets the Chairman Pro apart from the rest is the Flex Adjust technology. This technology ensures a superior shave by allowing both blades and the pivoting head to seamlessly adapt to the unique contours of your face. And there's something great that is going to make your grooming even easier. It is waterproof, meaning that you can use it in the shower. It's also got up to 75 minutes of runtime, meaning you don't need to worry about losing juice while you're having a shave. But that's not all. The package also includes the Power Shave Gel. It's non-irritating, it's lubricating, and it is specifically made to work with the Chairman Pro. And to finish off, we have got the Face Shave Soother. It's designed to help reduce redness and defend against ingrown hairs and razor bumps. So click the link in the description to get the Chairman Pro package today, and remember to use my code Joey Knight, all capitals, to get 20% off and free shipping on your order. Thank you very much to Manscaped for partnering up once again with the channel. Let's get back into the video. 4 goals, is it, this season for Noni Madueke?
Sounds about right.
That is.
The majority of those were obviously in the Wolves match.
Yeah, they were. 4 goals. There's not actually been any assists for him so far in the league. They were just in 2 matches, those 4 goals. Yeah. Persistently starting on that right wing. Also, let's remember, Enzo Maresca is consistently subbing normally Noni Madueke off for either Mykhailo Mudryk or Jadon Sancho, and what he's doing is putting Pedro Neto over onto that right-hand side. Now, when I think of key Pedro Neto moments, I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of them have come from when he's on that right-hand side.
Yeah.
Is there a conversation that needs to be had about Noni Madueke? And the reason I ask, is there, rather than just saying, right, we need to talk about him, because I don't want to, I feel like we're in a position where we have a strong connection to the people that watch us, right? Yeah. And the hardcore, obviously. Yeah. But to all the people that watch us, when I'm at the bridge, you know yourself, we get so much love and whatever, and it's so nice and whatever. But people feel like they know us, and that's because they do know us. Do you know what I mean? They sit and watch us, and I think like no other podcast. I think me and you get our personality across probably than a lot more other podcasts and stuff like that are able to, and that's saying that we love. But I feel like we have got a responsibility to not just flip-flap too much on things and give things the opportunity to do so. Yeah. So why don't you do that? Why don't you give the positives? Because there's been a bit of a dry spell. Yeah. There was obviously the game against Nottingham Forest where, listen, Liverpool lost against Nottingham Forest this season. Teams have found it hard against Nottingham Forest this season. Yeah. They're highly placed in the league for a reason, and they've had a great start to the season. And Noni Madueke, apart from that match against Wolves where he scored the hat-trick, he was the man that obviously rescued us a point in that game. I wouldn't so much say rescued it. I felt like we deserved to win the game. I felt like the least we deserved to come away with was a point. But there was that one. But there has been a spell of games since Wolves, barring that Nottingham Forest game, where maybe he hasn't delivered the goods. Is that fair to say?
I think it is fair to say. But on the counter to that, right, I think he's our best one-on-one winger, I would say, in terms of being able to beat a man, go outside our inside. In fact, a lot of the Arsenal game, he did the opposite of what he usually does. Usually what Noni Madueke wants to do, get the ball on the right-hand side, push the ball over to his left foot, get a shot away, curl the ball top bins. That's what he loves to do, right? Whereas what he was doing a lot against Arsenal was he was taking the guy on the right-hand side. And I love that versatility of him. I thought the final ball was a little bit, I wasn't as sure on, but I think his ability to beat a man is brilliant. I would say his shooting is exceptional. I think, talk about wingers and ability to get shots away. I think his shooting is really, really good.
There was one he put into Rose Edge yesterday.
There was. I think overall, if we're looking at the season as a whole,
there you go.
Not just the game against Arsenal. I think that's fair, right? What a lot of people are talking about is his defensive work rate as well. I think what he's doing is, again, he works hard. A lot of our wingers work hard, but he's also quite smart with the way he works. He can read the play quite well. And I think while he's not the best tackler, I think he often gets himself in the best position out of our wingers, right?
So hold on, just to jump in there, do you feel like he gives enough defensively or not?
I think when you compare him to other wingers, I think he does.
Right, okay.
I do think that.
Because what I would say is that Enzo Maresca was very quick to make his mind up on Raheem Sterling, right?
Yeah.
And if you go on goals and assists, right, you might say pre-season doesn't matter. I would say our outstanding players in pre-season, bearing in mind a lot of players coming back from tournaments and whatnot. Some players would have been on the training ground, spent a little bit more time with him. But I would say our two outstanding players from pre-season for me were Raheem Sterling and Christopher Nkunku. Do you think that's a stretch, or do you think that's fair enough?
I think it's fair, but I don't really pay much heedance to pre-season.
Pre-season, yeah. Now, one thing that Raheem Sterling was doing in pre-season was scoring goals and laying on assists, even though we weren't playing that well. And he was pretty much immediately shipped out.
Yeah.
If Enzo Maresca was giving some sort of instruction to Noni Madueke that Noni Madueke was not following, I'm telling you now, I've learned enough about this man by now. Enzo Maresca wouldn't be starting him.
So true. But he does take him off very quickly, doesn't he? I think there was a moment, obviously I'm in the ground, right? I'm in the East Upper. I can see the managers and I can see exactly what they're saying. In fact, sometimes you can hear them. And I think Noni, it wasn't his defensive work rate, but he misplaced a few passes. And they were pretty egregious positions. I mean, it resulted in Arsenal quite a promising attack. And also, I think it was about his positioning. There was a moment in which Enzo Maresca sees a misplaced pass, throws his hands in the air, immediately speaks to the coaching staff behind him and gets the wingers to warm up. And that was the moment where I was like, I don't know how many more chances Noni's going to get. And I don't mean this in terms of like he's going to be dropped forever. I mean in terms of I think there might be a position very soon with the performances of Neto in which Neto is preferred on that right-hand side because he's better on that right-hand side. And Noni drops out as a few games away and then plays his way back in.
Yeah, not even has a few games away though. Plays
the Conference League,
the Conference League games and the Cup games that we've got to come.
I think that's the thing. But what I would say is to all the Chelsea fans that want that is be careful what you wish for, because if you got Neto on that side, which is brilliant, I think actually Neto can be in positions. I think he could be superior to Noni Madueke. It's then what happens on the other side. I will back my boy Mykhailo Mudryk to the cows come home. But there are situations in which you don't want to play Mykhailo Mudryk, for example, against a low block. Then you've got Jadon Sancho. Yeah. Can we just have a quick chat about Jadon Sancho? What the fuck has happened to him?
What's going on?
So I'm reading now, obviously, I use this app which sort of delineates the team sheet, and then you see the injuries there. It's saying unknown sickness.
So
have we heard anything?
Yeah. So Enzo Maresca said that there was an illness and then there was a knock in training. And he said that the clarity on it, or, well, lack of clarity, is why we haven't had anything definitive or anything concrete from it. He said he may be back for the Arsenal game. He may be after the international break.
Do you worry about that?
Well, the reason I worry about it is because when you were talking about that there, I've been vocal about the fact that recently I think that the level of performances from Mykhailo Mudryk have increased. I think that you would definitely expect them to increase with the decrease of level of opposition in the games that he's been starting, but in the games that he's been coming on in, I do feel like he's been making significant impacts, and I think a couple of times he's been unlucky to not get assists, such
agreed.
As, I think, who was it we played?
It was the Cole Palmer assist against Man United, which I thought was incredibly...
Yeah.
I mean, that should have been a goal where Mykhailo Mudryk chops it. No, he chops it to Cole Palmer. Cole Palmer gets the cross in, beautiful across the box. Yeah. Jackson's got to be going for that near post.
And there's another one where Mudryk puts it to the feet of Nkunku and Nkunku hits it. There's a few key moments where I think Mudryk's been there. But what I would say is at this moment in time, I still think fit and firing from what I've seen of Jadon Sancho so far. I think that if Noni Madueke was to come out of the team, right, then I very much feel like over on the other wing, I would have Jadon Sancho. And it's like how many people call it, cold and fire with Cole Palmer and Noni Madueke. I just kind of feel like they're not stylistically the same player at all, but they're maybe two similar in terms of how they want the ball or what they want with Mykhailo Mudryk and Pedro Neto, rather than, I think, like having the option to be able to have a guy like Jadon Sancho who's completely different to a guy like Pedro Neto, and then having the bench that we do, the ability to go, right, if this isn't working, then we switch it up, then we bring on
I think it depends on the games, though. I think it depends on the games. Because, like, for example, our next game is Leicester.
Yeah.
I would play Sancho in that game to break down the low block, and then I'd play Pedro Neto on the right-hand side. But if it's against a team like Aston Villa, for example, who we've also got coming up, I'd consider Mykhailo Mudryk for that game. Because I think it pace in behind. I think you can get in behind Villa's defence. And so I'd potentially go for that. So for me, this is the beauty of building the squad in the way that we have, and it's actually quite smart from the directors of football in that you've got different types of players for different matches. And what I want to see is, rather than just going an A and a B team, for the wingers particularly, I want to be going, what type of game are we expecting and who's best to break down the defences that we're going to.
Do you know what else I think is good about that, though? That encourages, like, a lot more out of players on the training ground of that little bit of uncertainty. And when it's not going well for you, that uncertainty will always have a bad spin put on it. But when it is going well for you, and I do feel it's going well for us at the minute, right? Third in the league, how can it not be? That uncertainty, like, it will give you that extra push on the training ground. It will give you that extra bit of intensity, and you will run that extra yard on the training ground, because you know that there is not. It's not the Chelsea of 04-05 where you've got a nailed down starting 11 when it's definitely going to be this. And although we have seen that at points probably up to maybe the 7-8 game mark, now we're starting to see some differences come in there. And especially the fact that, like, matches are going on for, in terms of the ball, you know, actually, well, I would say being in play because there's stoppages and whatnot, but it's over 100 minutes that
I would say that Arsenal
now, right?
game, by the way, was probably one of the most in terms of ball out of play, by the way.
Right. And games are going on for over 100 minutes. There's game time here for these lads, and you know that people are going to get given their opportunities. One more man I want to touch on, because he will probably feel at the minute he's not being given his opportunities, especially not in the league games, which I'm sure he would feel that he should be starting, is João Felix. Now, I saw a lot of people yesterday, especially online, that were saying, like, look, I understand that Cole Palmer's the first name on the team sheet. I understand that Cole Palmer's our best player. But at the same time, if he is being man-marked out of the game and he's not getting that much joy, why aren't we bringing a João Felix on?
It's fitness as well, Joe. You could tell that Cole Palmer was not fit.
No.
You could tell it. So there's a point in which we have to acknowledge Cole Palmer is our best player, and so I totally understand why Enzo Maresca wants to keep him on, especially if you do get a penalty in the last minute. Who do you want Cole Palmer to be there, even with a half fit leg, a leg that's been scythed down by a Man United player who should have absolutely got a red card, by the way. That you want him there, but like he really should have been taken off. And it's interesting for me, mate, that you're calling out João Felix, because for me, the guy that should have been replacing Cole Palmer should have been Christopher Nkunku.
Yep. Now, but Christopher Nkunku was on the pitch.
Christopher Nkunku came on the 82nd, 3rd, 4th minute, and he came on for Nicholas Jackson, right?
Yep.
I'm not. I would have liked to have seen Jackson stay on the pitch, and I would like to have seen Nkunku replace Cole Palmer. I think what we're learning more than anything else is that the transfer that fell through for Samu has yielded a squad which is now mismanaged. João Felix and Christopher Nkunku want to be playing in the same position. Christopher Nkunku is better than João Felix, and yet we're discussing whether João Felix should have been the one to come into the team. And it shouldn't have been like that. And ultimately, Christopher Nkunku's suffering. He's probably going to end up leaving now because of it. But really, for me, we should be talking about João Felix leaving.
Is Christopher Nkunku better than João Felix?
Yes.
Is that your opinion? Do you think most people would agree with that?
I think most people would agree with me. Now, what's your counter to that then? How are you judging it?
My counter to it would be that João Felix has achieved more and done more. Maybe that's because of the clubs he's played for and probably injury record as well. In terms of being at Chelsea, probably pretty similar. But then when you look at goals per minute, Nkunku's are favoured quite highly. A lot of the time when Nkunku's been on the pitch, Cole Palmer hasn't been on the pitch, and therefore Nkunku scored quite a few penalties for Chelsea Football Club. And I would also say he's been a victim of the system where he is being played in a number 9 role. He's really not a number 9.
He's not a number 9. I think we can draw a line under that. He's definitely not a number 9.
But as a centre attacking midfielder yesterday, if you could give me the option, right, Cole Palmer comes off now, who do you bring on?
Yeah.
For me,
you would put
João Felix.
Really?
Yeah. I'm
so surprised about that because for me, right, the way that I think about Christopher Nkunku, some of the goals he scored, like let's take the Liverpool goal for example.
Yeah.
He's in a number 9 position, but a number 10 could absolutely end up in that position. He squirrels out of 5 tackles, bangs it into the back of the net. For me, I don't see João Felix doing that. And in fact, I was actually really disappointed with João Felix in the Conference League game. You know, he's the guy that's meant to be sort of leading the line, scoring all the goals. He got his goals. We won 8-0.
Scored 2, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. But there was also a lot of sky-high shots there. There were a lot of misplaced shots. There were a lot of block shots.
A miss of the season contender.
A miss of the season contender with the open goal, which absolutely should have been. I mean, just get your head on it more than anything. So I think João Felix has disappointed me so much in comparison. I mean, Christopher Nkunku has definitely not set the world alight in some of the Conference League games that he's played. And in fact, there was the Ghent game where basically he was anonymous. I think he didn't want to make any challenges. So, but for me, I think he offers more.
Ultimately, both players probably a little bit unhappy.
They need to step up the game.
Yeah.
But then also, the question I've got back to you is, starting game of next season, are both of those boys in the squad?
No.
And who do you think is more likely to go then?
This is a really hard one to answer.
Do you want to know my answer?
Go on.
I think that because of the wages and the transfer fee and the fact that there'll be more clubs interested in this guy, I think that João Felix will be in the squad. I think Christopher Nkunku would be the one.
Yeah, that's what I'd probably go with. Apparently, Man United interested.
Man United are interested in him. I could see him going to Spain. I could see him going back to Germany.
Yeah.
I think there'll be a lot of clubs interested in him.
So.
The thing is, though, is whatever happens, we need to replace that person that leaves with a number 9.
Well, we said we were going to do the Q&A in today's video, but I think what we're going to do is we're going to leave it for the next upload where we're going to be reacting to a little list that we saw. I think it was put out by Score 90, was it put out by?
Yeah,
and it was the top 20 Chelsea players of the 21st century. Now, there were some very controversial inclusions and controversial admissions from that top 20s. So we're definitely going to have a little look at that in the next video. I want to finish off this video by asking you one question and one question only, Josh. We faced a few of them so far.
Yeah.
Brian keeps reminding us of it, even though we did beat Newcastle when we faced them in the league.
Yeah.
Are Chelsea going to beat a traditional top 6 club this season?
Yes.
Of course we are.
Just that simple. Can we talk, before we go, can we quickly say, is this third place a bit of a false position?
Well, I think when you look at the league table, when you look at the amount of teams that are on around the 19, 18 point mark, you can argue that yes, because one loss can take you from third to 7th or 8th or something like that. But actually, I would say no. Like, I haven't walked away from a Chelsea game this season so far in the league saying we were shit there. And there were so many times. There were times when I walked away absolutely like enthralled and buzzing from games last season, but it wasn't necessarily the way we played. It was more because of the result. And it was like, it took me quite a while under Pochettino to start thinking like, oh, we played really well there sort of thing. Whereas there's games I've walked away from disappointed. Old Trafford, of course, you go away from that game disappointed. Nottingham Forest at home, of course, you go away from that game disappointed. Palace, you go away disappointed. But has there been a game that I've come away from and gone, we were shit there? No, there hasn't. So I don't think the third position is a sort of a forced dawn or anything like that. I think we deserve to be in the top 4 right now.
And by the way, there's also context on this in that we're playing all of those teams in a moment in which they're probably stronger. Like Man City, for example, we're playing them with Rodri. You know, Liverpool, we're playing them at full strength. Man United, we're playing them when they've got that new manager bounce and like it's all free flowing and happy. And then Arsenal, we're playing them when they have Odegaard back.
They need a win.
They need a win. They got Declan Rice back. They got their full starting defence as well.
Yep.
I mean, there's no excuses for Arsenal. That was their best 11 they could have put out on the pitch. And we faced them and we drew against them in a match in which we got a 2-2 draw last season, but we also lost 6-0 in the reverse fixture.
5-0, I think it was.
There you go.
There you go. Who cares?
Not bad.
Either way. And then you look at games like, potentially, I understand that we battered them at the back end of last season, but at the start of last season, I remember us facing West Ham. Didn't go the way it did when we faced West Ham at the start of this season. Did it? No. You know? And there's a few games that you can... Wolves done a double over us last season, didn't they? One on Christmas Eve. What a fucking awful Christmas that was. Whereas this time, we go there, and instead of coming away and having our Christmas ruined, we come away with a 6-2 victory, and we absolutely light the world up. So there's so much to be positive about, man. Rome was not built in a day, okay? Roman's empire may have been, but Rome was not built in a day.
Empires do crumble pretty quickly, though. Manchester City, looking at you.
Manchester City, we're looking at you. People, let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Make sure you are subscribed to Josh's channel. It is linked in the description to this one, and we will see you all in the next one.